Hey guys, welcome back to Brit's Book Corner. Today's video is going to be my March reading and writing wrap up. So to start off with, I did not give myself a number limit on what I wanted to read in March. I just basically said whatever I want to read is what I'm going to read in March. I'm not going to set myself a number. Because I'm just not going to do that, because every time I set myself a goal, I either way surpassed the goal or didn't even attempt the goal. So I didn't want to set myself a goal for March, but I surpassed whatever I thought my mind was going to do. I thought for sure I'd read right around the same as what I read in January and February, which was between 9 and 10. And I read in March 22 books. So let's get into the books. So the first book I want to show you, the title, this book was a duet. So it had two books in one. And I read the first book in this duet, which was Irish Thoroughbred by Nora Roberts. I remembered Irish Thoroughbred for a long time, and I couldn't remember what the name of the book was. Like, I remembered the characters, some of the events, all of that stuff. And when I seen this at Goodwill, I picked it up and I read the back, and I seen that it was the characters I remember, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read it. So Irish Thoroughbred is the first book I read in March. The book is Holding Out by Lila Rose. This was a book that I don't know how to explain it. I seen the book on Amazon, and I purchased the book. I think it was free actually, so I just got the book and I started reading. It was definitely one that I've never read before, because I'm not big on motorcycle club books, just because I'm not really big on that kind of thing. But for the first time reading a book about a motorcycle club, I absolutely enjoyed this book. It opened my eyes to the possibility that these books might be better than I originally thought they would be. This book is Taken by Esme Devlin, and this book was one that kind of, when I read the description, it kind of vaguely familiar, I don't know, it felt vaguely familiar, and I kind of put it in the context of possibly being 50 Shades of Grey, but not being 50 Shades of Grey. I mean, it had some 50 Shades aspects. It was like, rich guy, takes what he wants, gets what he wants. And that was something that I kind of wanted to see if it was actually good, and turned out. And it did. I really loved the book. 3 books I read in a box set, so I have all the covers on my Kindle. First is Throttle Me by Shel Bliss. And this was one, I love tattoos, and I love tattoo artists, and I watch Ink Master and all that stuff, and I've always loved the aspect of tattoos. And this was, a family-owned tattoo parlor. And when I seen this box set, I think it was free on Amazon, I was like, okay, I read the description of Throttle Me, and I was like, I really have to read this, so I'm going to download it and I'm going to read it. Well, I read the first book. I absolutely loved it. I loved it. Was the tattoo guy, motorcycle, comes to save the day. It's a lot. And I absolutely, thoroughly enjoyed this book. Thoroughly 100% enjoyed this book. I loved absolutely everything about it. The book in that box set is Hook Me by Shel Bliss. So Hook Me was one, it was a brother of the family that owns the tattoo parlor who is big into fighting. And what I really liked about this is that this family is rich, but they don't live rich. They don't like living on their old money. They want to make their own way in the world. They want to do something that makes them feel needed. And I felt like throughout this whole 3 books that I read of this series, I felt like it was really good. So I really liked that. But what I absolutely loved about Hook Me was that, I don't even know how to articulate what I loved about it. I loved that he was willing to work in the tattoo parlor. He was willing to try to go out of his comfort zone for the woman he wanted, but he was also staying true to himself and staying true to the fighting form that he really wanted. That probably doesn't make sense, but that's why I love the book. And last in the box set is Resist Me. And this was one of the books that I struggled with reading in this series. Only because it just wasn't. Of the whole family, there's 3 boys and 1 girl, and Resist Me is the 1 girl, and she It starts out with her like going on a date with a guy that she has casual encounters with, and then, he takes her someplace, and, some motorcycle gang guy says, hey, I want her. And, I don't know, like, I didn't like that whole aspect of the book. I didn't like the whole aspect of a cop coming to her rescue, but it's also like hiding the fact that she was involved in something. Like, I just didn't really like it, so I struggled to read the book. But the further I read the book, the more I got into it, the more I loved the story and the fact that it was just sticking true to the character, and I absolutely enjoyed that. The book I have to show you is Hooked on the Game by C.M. Owens. And this was a book that I wasn't really sure how I'd like when I first started reading it, because girl is moved into this apartment or this house that she's supposed to be renting with 2 other people. They get expelled for a prank, and then as she's sitting there worrying about how she's going to pay her bills and how she's going to pay her rent, some party from next door, like, they ruin her house somehow, and as punishment, the guy that was running the party, her next door neighbor, now has to let her live with him. And it's a struggle of him trying to make her popular. She doesn't really want that. It's a really good book. Like, I absolutely loved this entire book. I'm not gonna lie, I loved it. It's just, it was so weird and so different to me that I just wasn't sure how I would feel or like the story. But now that I'm sitting on it, now that I've read it a couple of times, I absolutely love it. The book I have to show you is Dear Ava by Ilsa Madden Mills. And what I really liked about this book was that even though it was a book that I typically wouldn't have gone for, it didn't in the blurb say anything about being high school. I like that I didn't know that it was high school until I got sucked into the book. And then even then, I still liked it. What was troubling about this book was that it was full of trigger warnings. Sexual abuse, bullying, that kind of thing. And so it was really like trigger warning. And so I wish that there would have been something that, said something about the trigger warnings in this book. But had I not known how to handle my trigger warnings, that would have been bad. But I know how to handle those. And so they didn't affect me as bad as I thought they would. But so this book is full of trigger warnings, but this book is still so good because it's that mystery of what happened to her. Who did that to her? Why are all these kids bullying her? Why are they all acting so mean? And why is this guy suddenly so into her? So I really recommend Dear Ava, because the book I have to show you is Marrying My Billionaire Boss by Nadia Lee. This was a book that I had to give a negative review on. And as you guys know, I hate giving negative reviews. I just don't like that. But here's why I gave this book a negative review. When I bought this book, I paid like $16 for this book. And I read the back of the book, and I was like super excited to read the back of this book. I thought it was just going to jump in like a few other books I've read in the past with their trip to Vegas. And then, they end up married, and then she ends up pregnant. And it's just like this whole like drama-filled thing is what I expected. I didn't expect it to take a while to get to the Vegas trip. I didn't expect it to take a while for her to suddenly become pregnant. There were a ton of inconsistencies of how can you both only have 3 drinks and not remember getting married, not remember sleeping together. Why would a billionaire who wants to spend time with his assistant lie and say, I can't cook my own breakfast, I only like this kind of drink, I can't pick my own clothes out? Why would a boss sit there and come in a towel and greet you every morning? Like, that's what bothered me the most, and that's the one thing that I just could not get over with this book. I just couldn't. Another thing that I didn't like about this book was that it ended with her pregnancy. Like, she didn't end up having the baby. She didn't end up anything. Like, I mean, I really tried to give this book a really good fighting chance, only because I certainly really wanted to love this book. I just didn't like it whatsoever. So the next book I want to show you is Enemies. I'm not going to attempt to say the author's name because I don't want to butcher it. But this book, I bought it because I absolutely love sports romances. And I have been stuck on sports romances since I read The Deal by Elle Kennedy, and that was a while ago. So here's the deal. I loved this book. I loved that that it was an enemies to lovers book. I loved that the 2 characters really did have to work through their issues. I really loved that there were secrets within part of this family. I really liked that, you know, things kind of worked out in the end and that they had to work together and just all of that stuff. I really, really enjoyed this book. I highly recommend it. This just is a 5-star out of 5-star. If I could give it more, I would. Guys, I Hate You by Elsa Madden Mills. Awesome book. Absolutely love it. Highly recommend. What I liked about this book is that it was a former lovers, like second chance, enemies to lovers kind of thing. And that's what I really loved about this book. I loved that, you know, the girl had harbored feelings against this guy because he broke up with her in front of all of her friends because he was afraid to commit. And I really just loved the whole aspect of he wanted to win her back. She didn't really want anything to do with him. Yet in the end, she ended up obviously getting back together with him. This book was really, really good. I honestly can say that I enjoyed this book 100%. I read it super fast, which is really telling when it comes to me. So I really recommend I Hate You. I have to show you is Juked by M.E. Carter. This book, I absolutely enjoyed it. It was really interesting to read because, you know, the girl, you know, ends up with her nephew because her sister ends up passing away, who, you know, the sister didn't even know she had a nephew, none of that stuff. And, you know, there's the turmoil of famous last words to the family member. And, you know, he comes in to save the day and he's like, you know, he's so invested in this kid because he, you know, he's a kid, he loves kids. And I just absolutely loved the single mom, you know, hero swoops in kind of thing. And I absolutely loved reading Juked. Juked was just something that, I've never read before because I've never read a soccer romance before. But it was also a different kind of romance. It was like, I don't even know like how to explain what kind of romance it was, but I absolutely loved this book 100%. I have to show you is Craving by Helen Hart. Now, have you ever purchased a book because you've read the reviews and all the reviews were amazing, they were promising, you know, all of that? I certainly bought this book because of those. And I think I paid like 99 cents for it before the book became free. And so I purchased this book and I had really high expectations because all of the Amazon reviews were amazing. I kept seeing ads for it on Facebook and all of those reviews were amazing. I even looked into future books and I was just like, okay, all the reviews for this series are amazing. You know, here it is. Now, when I look into books, when they say they're a part of a saga or a series, I'm like, okay. I look and I try to figure out if, you know, all of the books are, you know, about different people. And I knew that some of these books were about the same couple in Craving. What I didn't anticipate was the book to literally end on basically a cliffhanger of, oh, you know, this is happening, that's happening, blah, 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 blah. You know, it was just so much. Like, it was way too much. I didn't like the book at all. I had to give a bad review for this book, or not a bad review, a negative review for this book because it didn't live up to the hype that I had seen it. And not only that, but there were so many things wrong with this book. So many things. Like, you know, former, you know, military man is going through PTSD, but he won't get help. There are ways to get help for somebody that doesn't want help, especially if they have PTSD after being in the war. No sane doctor, when they do, you know, the discharge paperwork, would let him walk out with that severe PTSD. Like, that wouldn't happen. And then there's the elusive what happened to him as a child because it's plaguing him. You don't get answers. The only answer you get at the end of a book is her mom has the same exact tattoo that he remembered. You know, so it's like, well, what happened there? Like, what's going on? You know, it literally leaves you on a cliffhanger, and I hate cliffhangers, but this book turned me off. As good as I was really drawn into the book, but as soon as it ended on a cliffhanger, I was turned off. None of the questions I had were answered, and to me, if you're going to end a book, you have to end it with answering the questions that you pose throughout the book. Even if it is going to be a saga or it is going to be a series, answer the questions before you move on to the next book. That's just me. Have for you as part of the How to Date a Douchebag series, and it's The Studying Hours. This book stuck out to me when I was scrolling through Amazon looking for books to read. I seen that and I was like, how to date a douchebag. Like, that sounds really good. And I didn't see that it was part of a series. I just seen that that was what the cover said, as you guys just saw. So I downloaded the book. I got the book and I read it. And then I realized it was a part of a series. But I loved this book. Popular jock is struggling to keep his grades up because he really wants to keep his grades up. So he asks for help. He's dared to do a lot of things. And in the end, he ends up falling in love with the girl that he was dared to do a bunch of things to. And I absolutely love the book. I loved it. It was one that was so lighthearted. And so it just lifted my spirits up after the book that I had read before that kind of like drove my spirits down. This book pulled my spirits back up. There was so many laugh out loud moments. I absolutely enjoyed the book. I highly recommend How to Date a Douchebag, The Studying Hours. I'm going to show you is Beauty and the Blitz by Sophie Frost. This book I absolutely enjoyed. Again, it was a sports romance because I'm stuck in that rut right now. But I love this book. I loved that it was just so, I don't even know. Like, I had to give this book a second chance because I tried to read it when I first purchased it, like almost a year ago, and I couldn't get into it then. And so when I was like, okay, I want to find a book that I need to give a second chance to. And I clicked on Beauty and the Blitz, and I absolutely loved it. I loved that it was a single mom struggling. You know, her dad told her, hey, if you want to keep your job here with me, you need to get this guy to sign this paperwork to do this trade. And, you know, he didn't care, nothing. Like, it was really good from the single mom aspect and everything like that. Like, I totally 100% absolutely love this book. I recommend Beauty and the Blitz because it is absolutely 100% amazing. Is Sophie Frost's Baby Daddy. This book is one that I enjoyed. It was really interesting. It was really fun to watch this big, strong man struggle to raise these two little girls, only because I know what it's like to raise two little girls. And so I liked that, you know, somebody from his past, you know, things happened. There was lots of things, you know, somebody from his past that he was in love with, you know, kind of swoops in to help him save the day, and he hires her and things happen, and just there's drama around every corner, and I absolutely loved it. I loved that the book actually answered questions at the end that I had. I loved the book. I loved that it showed the struggles of raising children. I loved that it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows with raising kids, and so I loved that I was able to feel for him and feel for the fact that he was raising two little girls when I know what it's like to raise two little girls, even though my girls are 4 years apart. And I absolutely love this book. I highly recommend Baby Daddy. Next book I have to show you is Bad Nightstand by Elise Faber. This was also a book I had to give a negative review on, and I don't know, like, I didn't really like this book. I didn't really like how it was like, oh, you know, a really terrible, like, thing happened to this guy. They were having a one-night stand, and he got his and then just left her there, like, got a phone call and just up and left. Like, who would answer their phone just to up and leave? And then when he comes back and he's like, oh, I want to make it up to you, blah, 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 and she just falls for it. To me, that is a very bad storytelling, and I'm not saying that it's a bad book. I just didn't like that it was like, oh, you know, he kind of stiffed her in their aspect, and then she just kind of like brought him back in, you know? I didn't like it. It's definitely not my cup of tea, but I mean, to each their own. Next up is Old Fashioned by Candy Steiner. This is a book I've absolutely been 100% waiting for since I knew it was coming out. Here's why. I've read books 2 and 3 of this series, and it's the Becker Brothers series. I've talked about them before. I absolutely 100% loved this book. I loved that the entire 4-book series had this kind of mystery happening of what happened to the Becker brothers' father. You know, how was it going to end? I loved that, you know, everybody got kind of like a second chance at love. And I loved Jordan's story because he was adopted, and it went back You know, it went back to the time where he learned that he was adopted, that he learned he was different. And before then, he didn't really know he was different. He just thought he was, you know, the same. He thought he was their kid. And, you know, it was really interesting to see these things. And I absolutely 100% highly recommend Old Fashioned. I actually recommend the entire series. So if you haven't read them, I think you should start with On the Rocks and read through to this book, because this is absolutely 100% amazing. It is Lover Eternal by J.R. Ward. This book is my all-time favorite of the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. I 100% absolutely love this book. I love that Rage and Mary, you know, basically are complete opposites, yet opposites attract in this book. I love that he is willing to keep his curse for her. I love that in the end that he's willing to give her up just to save her life. I absolutely love the story in this book. I absolutely love all of it. I 100% highly recommend this book. Rage and Mary, the whole Black Dagger Brotherhood series is amazing, but Rage and Mary's book is my all-time favorite, and I could not recommend this book enough. It is Lover Revealed by J.R. Ward. I really love this book because it's a role reversal. In books 1 and 2 of this series, the men were the vampires and the females were the human. And in this book, it was opposite. So the male was human and the female was a vampire. And I absolutely loved that because it showed her struggle of wanting to stay faithful to him, but she couldn't stay that way. She had to go and get her sustenance from somebody else. And I loved that it showed his struggle, that he had something very traumatic happen to him that brought the two of them together. And then in the end, you know, just lots of things happen. So I highly recommend Lover Revealed. It is Lover Reborn by J.R. Ward. This book was one that I hadn't read. I bought it 3 or 4 years ago with the intention of reading the book, but I never read it. And I can't understand why I never read it, because I read the books around it. I just never read this particular book. It's about a character that I absolutely had questions about because something happens to him in early books and then he just disappears for a while. And then he comes back and you have questions. You're like, well, what happened? All this stuff. So I really like that I gave this book a chance to read it. I was like, I really want to read this book now. And I absolutely love this book. This book is now my number 3 favorite in the series, below Lover Eternal and Lover Revealed. The last book I have to tell you about, I cannot show you because I promised I would not until April 7th when it comes out. The book is Let Loose for Me by Georgia Kaufman. I read this book and I absolutely love it. So you guys can look forward to Let Loose for Me on April 7th. On April 7th, I will be posting my Instagram book review for this book because I absolutely loved it, and my ARC reading vlog for this book with my 100% real reactions as I'm reading the book. So look for those on April 7th. Talk about writing goals. My writing goal for March was absolutely nothing. I had no writing goal. I didn't want to write it all in March. I wanted to save all that for Camp Nano coming up in April. But that never happens for me because over the last couple of weeks, I've been wanting to write more and more. And I've been kind of like holding off on that because I really wanted to wait and work on my story for Camp Nano. And so I didn't really have anything else in mind to write anything. So after I read the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, I really got it in my head that I wanted to do fan fictions again. And the fan fictions that stuck in my head were Black Dagger Brotherhood fan fictions. So I decided I was not going to rewrite the ones that I already wrote on my first fan fiction account on Wattpad. I decided I was going to write them on my new account, which will be linked in the description below. And I also decided I'm not going to publish it until the book is absolutely 100% finished, meaning I get all the parts or chapters written for it. So originally I wasn't going to write anything and I ended up doing a fan fiction. So let's talk about this fan fiction. I sat down and I came up with a list of all the main couples because again, I want to do these main couples in these books, and I decided to kind of just do each couple in a book or each couple's long lost child or something. Not real sure how that's going to go, but I wrote them all down, realized there were 11, and I freaked out just a little bit. I said, okay, if I don't write all 11, I don't write all 11. I at least want to write the first 2 because I have ideas for the first 2. And so I did that. I started writing. I've written, I want to say, about 13,000 words. And I started writing this on, I want to say Monday. I think I started writing this fan fiction on Monday. And so I've been writing a little bit every day, trying to find a new writing routine for April so that I can get into writing in April. And so, yeah, 13,000 words in March isn't bad. On a story that I really wasn't going to do anyway, isn't bad at all. Coming up with a new fan fiction because I have been wanting to write on Wattpad again, that's not bad. I absolutely am so happy that I found an idea to write on Wattpad because I've been just dying to write on Wattpad again. That's it for this writing and reading wrap up for March. I am super stoked to tell you that I am super amazed at myself. I never thought I was going to read 22 books in March. Like I said earlier in the video, I thought I was going to read between 9 and 10 because that's what I did in February and January. I absolutely 100% did not think I was going to do 22 books in March. But that brings my yearly total to 41, which, like I said in a previous video, I upped my yearly goal to 75, and I think once again I'm going to have to up it again, but we'll see after the next month or two just to see how much reading I actually do get done. Because April is Camp Nano, May is birthday season for us, and, you know, we start camping and all of that, so we'll just see how things go from here. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please comment down below if you've read any of these books or you have any recommendations you want for me. Don't forget that I'm looking for questions for a Q&A video. Please leave them down in the description in the comments below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.